Wolfman Joe. I'm going to take it to the beginning of the book. Because you know what? I'm going to switch up the tune of this podcast. It's my podcast now. I'll do what I want. And it's in the rebranding process of it. See, Joseph Evaldi has been consorting and listening to some of the stuff that he's been doing as Wolfman Joe. Now, Wolfman Joe is somebody who enjoyed life. He enjoyed the tunes of life. He enjoyed the motions. He enjoyed the affect. He enjoyed everything. He enjoyed the words, and he made them live, and he made them dance. He enjoyed going into the public. He enjoyed wanting to go to places that he can never go to. He enjoyed wanting to have dreams of going to Scotland and Ireland. He had dreams. And maybe the dreams, some of them didn't pass, but some of them wanted to live. Slow-Mo Joe knew this. They were his words. They were his myth. They were the fairy tale of who he was. And as you know, through this podcast, the vibe has changed. Because it's under the Joseph Evaldi Network now. Which means things will change on this podcast. Things can no longer remain the same. Which means it's going through a gimmick change. I can't change the name of the podcast, but I could change the feelings of the podcast. I could change what it means and what it feels like. Because Slow-Mo Joe, Wolfman Joe, Joseph the Russian Bear, Blood Demon, whatever name is invoked in this podcast, even the Father Joe of Madrid. But you know what? It's the podcast that lives, it's the podcast that dances, and it's the podcast that makes the movement to do what it needs to do. That's why this podcast lives. I am going to bring this to a close by reading the words that were written in the Apparitions of Warrior. And then I'm going to do a final plug to close the show. It's called Who I Am. Just like a storybook, I am a fairy tale. I appear to surprise many when it comes time for the end. When I wake up, my day is intended to be in joy. I prepare myself to be in a good mood. I continue to seize the day as if light during the day shines. As I approach others, energy builds inside me. I am not having fear with talking to others. I'll show them I want to produce by having a good day. Maybe my happiness will rub onto them. Then I continue As more energy from beyond builds inside my heart, it drives me into a hyper demeanor. Others say, look, the wolf is livelier than he has ever been. As the wolf lives, it creates the passion into my being. Finally, I chart down my lively experiences as if I'm writing a novel. I see the passion of the situation. I live an imagination of energy coming to life. As you see, folks, the Joseph Evaldi podcast is changing. It's changing, my friends. It will never be the same again. Because Joseph Evaldi is not the same. Those who tried to destroy him, those who tried to end him, take his identity away, and everything else, didn't know he wasn't just one person. He was many other different persons, and it's all under the umbrella of the Joseph Evaldi brand, which they so heavily wanted, so heavily craved, so heavily desired. But in truth, true owner of the Joseph Evaldi brand remains a mystery. Because under the name of Joseph Evaldi, which he is, he is true Wolfman. Wolfman Joe. Or it all comes together when he becomes the Totem Wolf on the Totem Wolf and Bearheart podcast. It all comes together. As many of you may know, Joseph Evaldi brand lives, it breeds, it invents itself again. It lives in the muse, it lives in the art, and it lives going where it needs to go. Now I could create all I want. I could do blogs and everything else. But what is timelessness? What are the words that's going to echo many years later? What are the words that echo tomorrow? What are the words that echo today? What are the words that are going to echo 100 years from now, 500 years from now, thousands of years from now. What are those words? Yes. Joseph Evaldi podcast has changed. And consider this a New Year's promo. Started out the Joseph Evaldi podcast of old, and it is the Joseph Evaldi podcast of today. It's new. It's fresh. Straight off the market. See, this rebrand, this vision, this dance, so to speak, it lives, it marks, it goes everywhere. Fights for words to be written on a page. It fights for words to be spoken out loud. It fights for words to dance in a book so somebody could read. It fights for those moments that can captivate woman's heart in 1 second. And it fights for moments where I could write the words two pairs of eyes meet in a bit of dance, of romance. Swing by the feet. They look into each other's eyes. They see something there. They see what was lost. Try to find what is gained. And then, as the tale thickens, the wind blows. Mist is there. They know what to do. Then they embrace with a hug and touch with a kiss. They know what's after, but they're in the moment. As I am right now, in the moment of this podcast. Gonna close up this podcast by saying and plugging the Joseph Evaldi blog, which is josephevaldi.blog. It is available from WordPress. I write a little bit of the happenings of the day, and maybe it's a good way to keep you in touch with my work and everything else, everything in the Joseph Evaldi brand, what I'm working on, and everything else. It's very good. I might even hire another blogger to blog. You never know. It's going to be current, it's going to be fun, it's going to be new. You never know. We'll see. I'm going to also plug the Ulk Us Network. Ricky is a great fan of the podcast. And I'm happy to have him on as Bearheart under the Joseph Evaldi Network, because it's just one of the many shows that are going to be coming